Hello, and thank you for lending your ears to Ratehub.ca's Real Money Talk podcast. In this show, we give you the real talk on all things money. We eliminate the fine print, we junk the jargon, and we explain how you can make smarter financial decisions. We're not millionaires, we're thousandaires, and we know you are too, so this show is for you. We want to talk about money because it affects everyone, rich and poor. Money shouldn't only be the occupation of the 1%, but rather the 99%. Money isn't everything, but it is everywhere. We want to educate about money through story. We Canadians ignore money, hoping if we do, like many other problems, it'll go away. Our goal is to make money an everyday discussion. This podcast is brought to you by EQ Bank and the EQ Bank Savings Plus account. Want the flexibility of an everyday checking account with a 2% interest rate? You got it. You'll also get free Interac e-transfers, free bill payments, no minimum balance, and no monthly fees. For easy banking that earns without any everyday banking fees, switch to EQ Bank today. Hey, thank you for tuning in. My name is Tyler, and I'll be your guide for Season 2 of the show. If you want to get in touch, find Ratehub on your favorite social media channels or email us, realmoneytalk@ratehub.ca. If you like the show, do me a favor, share it with your friends, give us a follow, leave a comment, and follow us on the journey to choosing better.
Hello, my name is Zack, and I'll be your guest host for this episode of the Real Money Talk podcast. Whether or not you actively seek music, it's everywhere. Be it through your favorite streaming platform, on the radio in your car, through commercials on TV, in the background at the grocery store, or through live performances in bars, clubs, or restaurants, music surrounds and delights us by filling up life's silent moments. But behind the music that you hear every day, there's a musician, one who's dedicated their life to making it possible. However, it's becoming an increasingly uphill battle to work professionally as one. With the rising cost of living and the way people purchase music evolving rapidly over the last few years, working as a musician seems only possible as a side hustle or passion project. In fact, the mere idea of working as a musician nowadays seems far-fetched. But this week's Real Money Talk podcast guest is Mike Evin. He's a working musician currently living in Toronto. Evan's work as a musician spans nearly 2 decades, with full-length albums, a few EPs, and a few charming music videos to complement his sonic creations. He's worked with Juno-nominated producers and earned regular playtime on CBC Music. Evan's also earned nods from some of Canada's most notable working musicians like Dan Mangan and Sarah Harmer. He shared the stage with staples of Canada's professional musician industry, like the Barenaked ladies and Sexsmith. We spoke with Mike Evin about the ins and outs of what life as a working musician is like, how musicians make ends meet today, and other topics, including insider tips and tricks on how musicians can make the most of their time working in the competitive music industry.
Thank you for tuning in to the Real Money Talk podcast. Today, hosting is Zack, who is a content writer at Ratehub.ca.
Hi.
And our special guest for today is singer, songwriter, performer Mike Evin.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Doing all right. So Mike, we always start with like a money makeup or a money mistake. Actually, Zack, you want to start with your story because I think it's a good kickoff.
Sure. So I play in a kind of knuckleheady hardcore punk band called Losers, and we had a show in London, which happened to happen on a Friday, which means we're all like at work. So we rushed to London, Ontario, and quickly parked, ran into the venue to see the band that invited us. We played our set, and we made about $70 that night. And as soon as the show finished and we made it back to our car, we got a parking ticket for the exact same amount.
Made $70 to pay $70.
Exactly. Yeah.
Earned a bunch of new fans along the way, right?
Actually, yeah. It was in a bookshop, and the owner just like ran up and she's like, "I got to buy all your stuff." So that was nice. Yeah, there's always some silver lining with this kind of work. But
my story, I'm just going to relate it to the music industry as well. I used to promote shows. I mean, it was just an overall mistake. But one thing I found out early on was that to really have people come out to the shows that you're promoting, you need to go to those shows, to their shows. And I don't think I've ever spent so much money on alcohol in like a 6-month stint. Usually at that age, it was sort of $60 to go to the bar at night. And then I was probably going to shows certainly Friday, Saturday, and then usually like a acoustic performance on Sunday and, a punk performance on Thursday or something. So anyway, I spent a lot of money, and that was right leading into my wedding, which, Mike, you got one?
Yeah, it's pretty recent too, and it also involves London, Ontario. So the drummer I play with is from London, and we've played shows there over the years. And there's a venue there that you have to kind of rent it out, but you have to kind of pay a little bit to cover the sound and just the renting. I guess it's a bit of a rental fee. It's a small room, and so I booked a show there and put down a deposit for half the fee. And for some reason or another, we had trouble selling tickets this time around. And yeah, so I had to make the difficult decision to cancel the show. And because of that, I lost the deposit. But it was either do that or go ahead with the show and lose more money. So I had to decide lose a bit of money or lose more money. And I decided to lose a bit of money, which is what happened.
So why don't you tell us the Mike Evans story and how you got started?
Started taking, piano and learning music, as a kid, and just fell in love with music in general, and then got into playing jazz as a teenager and playing in a high school band. And then I started, late teens, started writing songs and performing my songs as a singer-songwriter, and made my first record in my early 20s. And by then I was really hooked on this whole process of performing and communicating with an audience and telling stories, and just kind of went from there. It was just very gradual, and just making mentors and learning the craft of writing and performing, and learning from my mistakes, and just realizing it's a whole journey, and I'm never going to feel like I've ever really arrived. It's always just trying to get better.
So yeah, I just wanted to ask, like, when was the first time you thought you could earn money as a musician, and if you have a little story attached to how it started picking up?
I guess when I back in 2004, I did my first kind of live concert for CBC. I was asked to be a part of something. I was opening up for Sarah Harmer, and it was broadcast live, recorded and broadcast later. And it was, a feeling of kind of rising to the occasion. I felt like I really did a good job. But then we got paid for that performance, and got paid well. And that's one of the first times I really felt like, oh, this is something I could do, Like
before that, were you sort of, that you have to have played in small clubs or something before, or?
For sure. And I've always dealt with money. I remember one time back when I was playing clubs. Well, I still play clubs. I remember this was a club where you had to pay. So you had to pay a certain fee to kind of play there. And then if the bar sold a certain amount of alcohol, then you get your fee back that you paid. And so this was in Montreal where I grew up. And so we played. It was a great show. We were in, but my crowd's not like a huge drinking crowd. So I'd say like the amount of people there didn't necessarily translate into alcohol sold. But anyways, I think we were $50 short of that amount that they were supposed to have sold for me to get my deposit back. And I remember I was like kind of coming head to head with the bar manager. I proposed why don't I just pay you the $50 that's in question, and then that means you've reached that amount, then you can give me back that other amount. And then we'll have to call in our owner. So they called in the owner, and there was this big tough Irish guy, kind of looked like he was in the mafia somehow. And he came in and he was like, "What's the problem here?" And I explained to him the situation. I explained to him my proposed solution. and he was, just very quiet, kind of like stroking his chin, that kind of thing. And he said, like, well, it's really the principle here, it's the principle. And it was that kind of discussion. And then at one point, he took the money and he put it on the bar. And I was with my bass player, who was freaking out. He was like, he just wanted to get out of there. He just didn't want us to get hurt. And basically, like, I didn't want to reach over and get it, because he was still in the process of, like, he bought us drinks. He said, like, what are you guys drinking? And so it was kind of like we had to play the game a bit. And so I went along with it, had a drink with him. Meanwhile, looking at that money on the bar, and he was telling us stories about the old days in Ireland, how he was a bouncer when U2 was coming up, all this and that. And eventually he let me take the money, and we got out of there as soon as we could. And that was it. So I got, I kept my cool, and I kind of stood my ground. And I know this was like, in my early 20s, I didn't know I really had that in me, but I guess I've always had this, there's a bit of a natural, when push comes to shove, like, I'll stand my ground. And if I feel like I've worked for something and I'm owed something, and I'll get it. Like, I'm pretty like passionate about musicians and artists standing up for getting paid well and treating ourselves like we're doing a job just like anyone else, and we deserve to get paid for that.
What would you say to like a self-employed musician in terms of getting paid well, and to the musicians out there that get paid in drinks at the bar kind of thing? Is that something that, I mean, the world wants to be entertained, but why does it have to be that to be entertained? It's, we'll cover your drink tab for the night.
I think that's not acceptable. I think the musicians and artists have to do their part to carry themselves with more dignity and confidence and love, so that from the inside we can really demand to be treated with more respect. I think it's a bit of a, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? It's like the musicians, our whole lives, our whole careers, we're kind of made to feel as if what we're doing, you're so lucky, you get to do what you love for a living, and you're just having fun up there, and get to drink and this and that. But no, like, we've worked really hard, we've trained really hard, and we put a lot of work into it. We deserve to get paid fairly. So I think, first of all, the musicians have to carry themselves with more dignity that way, and to realize this is what we're owed, this is what we deserve. Everyone, if we all do that together, then that'll create the change for the promoters or the bar owners who feel like, oh, these are musicians, we'll just give them drinks and that'll make them happy, and that way we don't have to pay them properly, So I think it's just comes from us, from the musicians. We have to carry ourselves a certain way.
I agree with you. I think it's even harder now, especially in a city like Toronto, and where you are now, with all the venues shutting down.
You're talking about now, like this specific time, or in general?
Yeah,
like...
this specific time. Yeah. It seems like a lot more venues are shutting down, and there's fewer spaces to play. If someone is to stand up for themselves, like you did for the bouncer, do you just sort of sit there and wait on principle?
Well, it's difficult, because it's kind of like it's similar to, like, I guess a union saying we're going to go on strike until we get paid fairly, treated fairly. I mean, there's always going to be people like the scabs, or people like young musicians, or musicians who just want the experience and who will be happy with whatever they get. So I think it's hard to say, like, we won't play these bars because they don't treat you fairly, because if you say, like, well, we're not going to play here, then they say, fine, we'll get someone else, because there's always going to be someone else who's going to want to play for whatever they get, So I think it's, you got to take it from from a gig to gig kind of, basis. And I think talking with some musicians that I play with, there's some people have this, like, there's a 3-thing rule. It's kind of like, if 2 of the 3 things are there, then they'll take the gig. And the 3 things are the pay, the quality of the music, and the hang. So if, like, let's say the music is kind of crap, but the pay is going to be good and the hang with the other musicians is going to be good, then they'll take the gig. But I don't know. I guess every musician has got to take a look at their own situation and what they want to get out of it. And if they are perfectly happy just kind of, getting the experience or just playing for what they get, and then they should take the gig, But I've been constantly in that boat, I do my own music, and I'm a singer-songwriter, and I have that going as a career, but it's a challenge, and it's always been a challenge. But parallel to that, I'm always playing with different bands and different projects in bars and in other types of venues, corporate, private stuff around the city and the area. So I'm always dealing with that. Like, is this gig worth taking? Is it going to be? I'm going to be up till 2 a.m. playing for this amount of money. Is it worth it? Is the hang good? Is it going to be fun? Is the music good? And then after a while, like, you think, well, I'm doing these gigs for so long. I feel like I'm kind of just in this rut, or this like repeated routine of doing these types of gigs, these bar gigs. And you have to take a break and try to do other types of gigs or do other types of work. I mean, it's like, I think it's like any other job, you just got to always check in with yourself to see if it's fulfilling in the different ways, monetarily and for your soul and for your creativity. That's all,
Yeah, definitely agree. On my end, as a part-time musician and full-time writer, I can definitely relate to those. But I wanted to ask, like, how do musicians earn their revenue nowadays with, free music kind of, we're just getting back into people paying into music, and there was a near decade of streaming and file sharing. So I wanted to ask, like, how do musicians make money nowadays?
Well, it's still a challenge. It's not, I don't think there's any one clear way. It's still evolving. But I wanted to ask you a quick question just to clarify. When you say we're only just now getting back to people paying for music, what are you referring to?
Well, I say this lightly because I know how streaming platforms, which I won't name, don't really pay musicians properly. But in general, like, we kind of moved from using file sharing services like Limewire and things like that, Napster, and then moved into people actually paying money to use subscription-based services like, I'm sure everybody can name them.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I haven't seen too much revenue from the streaming services personally, but my streaming numbers are pretty low. I think even for every 1 million streams on a streaming service, you get $4,000 after all is said and done. That's if there's like very little hands in the pie, but the more hands you have, if you have like a label, if you have publishing, this and that manager, then you're going to get less than that. But that's, all said, that's not a lot of money for 1 million streams. But I think that is still that. So streaming, money from streaming, that is one part of the pie. So far the biggest, and this was a surprise to me, but the biggest chunk of money I've gotten was for a thing called neighboring rights. Have you guys heard of that?
I have not.
So you've heard of like performing rights, like Socan. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, definitely.
That's revenue as a songwriter, which is still legitimate, which is still pretty substantial. Like when you song. So as a songwriter, you get paid when your songs are played on the radio, when your songs are played in cafes, when your songs are played on TV in various forms, in commercials, this and that. You get, it's called the back end of the royalties. It's like residuals or whatever you want to call it. That's as a songwriter. But then relatively recently, they started a new type of rights, which is called neighboring rights, which is as if you own the rights to the recording. It also covers satellite radio. So in addition to being a songwriter, you also get paid for being a performer. Someone told me a few years ago, you got to register with this place called Sound Exchange. They're out of the States and they cover neighboring rights. And I was just starting to hear about neighboring rights, so I just kind of went to their site, registered my most recent songs, And then like maybe 6 months later, I got my first check or my first royalty statement from them. Then I got, so all told, from like 3 different checks from them over the course of a few months, I made back all the money I spent to record my album at the time, which was which, and it was in US money, so converted to Canadian, it was substantial for me at the time. That was the largest chunk I'd gotten all at once.
Any like recording, I saw like your last Have I Ever Loved Right Now. That's a professionally produced music video. It's very well done. There's a lot of money that goes out when you're making music, as you said.
Oh yeah, ton of money.
And isn't like, how do you find that balance? Like, it's certainly, being a musician is not a 9-to-5 job with a regular biweekly paycheck. You earn money, and then it's sort of like a rising tide. And then when the tide runs out, you hope that it comes back with people buying your album, I guess.
Yeah, though I think right now the way it's evolved up until now, it's the people buying your album is not nearly as big a part of the tide as it used to be.
Right.
Obviously,
Yes, yeah.
Though people still, I think, a big. But so sorry to back up. Yeah, to your point, yes, there is a lot of money that goes out when you're making music, and Canadian musicians, it's a double-edged sword, but we are lucky in one sense in that we have access potentially to grant money from various organizations. So for instance, my not my most recent album, but the album before that, which is the album where Have I Ever Loved comes from.
Yeah.
I got a grant for that, which was able to cover, making that video and some of the recording expenses and publicity, hiring a publicist, and some tour support. So that helped a lot. And but I actually didn't. I applied for that same grant for my most recent album, and I 3 times, and I didn't get it. So it's still very it's competitive, and it's not a sure thing. But yes.
Are the stipulations hard? Are the stipulations to get how long does it take you to fill out a grant? And is it like, oh, this has to be your first album, or it has to be your, 100% made in Canada? It has to be, talk about maple syrup at least 3 times.
Well, there's definitely stipulations in terms of the Canadian content, for sure. Yeah. In terms of like how Canadian it is, for sure. But that's easily satisfied. Beyond that, it's there's a bunch of different criteria, and it's sometimes it's a bit mysterious why one thing gets a grant, another thing doesn't get a grant. It could be political. It could be. I think it could also definitely relates to like your business, your career, what stage it's at that point too. I don't know. There's a whole, different. Obviously, the quality of the music, but that's not the whole thing right there. There's other criteria. But in terms of like that tide you mentioned coming in, it's very important for a lot of artists, for sure. Like artists who go on tour, and who are able to go on tour and to play to audiences wherever they go. That is a big part of that tide coming in after they've spent all this money to record and make their product. When you're playing live, hopefully you're making money as you're doing it, but playing live is a whole other kettle of fish in terms of making that sustainable. I think there's many ways to kind of not make money while you're out playing live.
Like from, as you said already, right? Tour management, and if you're driving a van or you got a bus, but
potentially, ideally, you're making money, and you're making money from the ticket sales, and you're making money from selling merchandise, and you can also actually earn money from Socan when you play live, if you register your performance and the songs you played, and it's more than $6. The ticket price is more than $6. You can actually register that performance with Socan, the songwriters' performance rights organization, and you can make some money off of that too.
Would you say? I've always been curious, like CANCON, is that restrictive? And, a Canadian artist might get lulled into the belief because we're getting grants, we have the Socan licensing, we have CanCon, does that restrict our artists from growing outside of Canada, do you think?
I think it can. Definitely, it's a double-edged sword. I think the issue with one of the issues with grants and getting funding from the government is that I've heard it said by different people in the industry. I think it's legitimate that all of the Canadian record labels, if you took all of the grants funding that they get away tomorrow, they would all go bankrupt.
Oh boy.
They're not making any money to really keep them afloat the way their counterparts in the US have to be, you know? So when that is the situation, when you're receiving a certain amount of, it's guaranteed for a lot of these Canadian labels that they're receiving this certain amount of money from the Canadian government in grant funding, then you're not going to really work hard to really, the same way that an American label would, you're not going to work hard to really push your artists and you know, push their careers along, because there's not as much of an incentive. There's not as much to lose. You know, they're not really investing any of their own money into it. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword, you know. And I think certain artists and labels who are really embedded in that Canadian grant funding system, then I mean, one opinion would be that like you're kind of breeding mediocrity, because you're not really striving to really push yourself and push your career. I don't know, maybe that's a bit of a stretch potentially, but it's not. I wouldn't say it's the healthiest for like business, you know, and for a career. But it's definitely, I don't know. It's like I said, it's a double-edged sword, because it's enabling so many artists to stay afloat and to have a career.
Our stint in London and then we ended up going to Windsor was pretty costly. So from my understanding, the visa to work in the United States is fairly expensive, and it's per person. So we did the math, and it just wouldn't be worth it for us to go there and make like, you know, $70 a gig. But just Windsor and London alone, with hotels, gas, food, and like, you know, a couple of beers here and there, it was like pretty expensive as it was. We tried to, or are in the process of trying to get around it, because we know a band that knows a band in Detroit, so they can lend us our instruments and we can just kind of go there and just kind of cultivate our audience.
Oh, but be careful crossing the border without a proper visa.
Yeah, I know, but
you don't want to get screwed with that.
You know, yeah, it's not like in our definite, you know, future, but it's something we've played around with. But I wanted to ask, what's the best way fans can support their favorite artists in an era where streaming's kind of the norm?
Well, I think Bandcamp. You guys know Bandcamp, the platform. I think that's
absolutely
that's a great. It's a great direct artist way to support an artist. And if you look, a lot of artists who are, you know, successful with streaming and stuff like that, they still have their stuff up on Bandcamp, and they still a lot of them still direct their fans to their Bandcamp page. I mean, you get a much larger chunk of the money, and you know, and also fans can download. If they still listen to downloads, they can still download high quality versions of the music. And you could also sell your physical merch, which I do, from Bandcamp. And I think, Bandcamp specifically is a very good way to support the artists that they love. And I mean, obviously going to see shows, that's another great way. Those are the two biggest ways, I think.
Cool. I've definitely noticed that firsthand. We actually had a song on the show, Letterkenny, and we got paid for it, and it doesn't come with residuals, so that basically just went straight into our room rent, or practice room rent. But overall, like, I think merch and shows are the only way we really make revenue.
Yeah, buying merch also, exactly. That's another great way. But could I ask you a quick question about your placement in the show there? So how come you don't get like royalties from Socan for having your music in the show?
I'll be honest. Our lead singer kind of does all the workings of it, and he just said we didn't. I'm not exactly sure why, but I'll have to bring it up with him again.
Well, I'll just say something quick about that. I mean, I think we all, like, in this day and age, I mean, it's so easy to like educate yourselves and to like know what is proper. So I think it's good for every member of a band, I think, to like really be on top of things, you know, because like just like for instance, like that Sound Exchange neighboring rights royalty thing that I told you about earlier, like I'd been hearing about it and it was just kind of like, oh, you know, well, okay, maybe I'll check into that. And it was just like very kind of just half-assed. I just kind of went to the website, signed up for it. And literally, you know, I got a lot of money, relatively speaking, for that, which was a total surprise. So you gotta check every door, like look under every stone, because there's going to be money there potentially that is yours.
Some very sage wisdom. I will definitely consider.
What other money saving tips or money earning tips for people pursuing a passion like music, or not? I won't even say a passion, a career in music. What advice would you give people to help manage the tide to keep bringing it back up? But
that's a good question. I don't know if I have an easy answer to that, but I mean, one thing that I was told, which I resisted for a long, long time, was to diversify, you know, within music. You know, for a long, long time, I was like, I'm an artist, I am a singer-songwriter, that's all I do. And then, you know, only later did I start to kind of play in other people's projects, kind of be a working musician playing, you know, for hire for other people's projects and songwrite with other people. And also I do some teaching on the side as well, like music teaching. And so it's all these little things that, you know, when I'm not making a lot of money from my own project, help me to keep afloat while still kind of being in the music world. And you know, I've realized that like everything kind of feeds into each other, not just financially, but like I learn stuff when I'm teaching kids music that I can, you know, I learn more about music stuff that I can bring into my own music as well. So it's just, I guess I would say, you know, one piece of advice would be not to shy away from diversifying and trying to get involved in other avenues within music, you know, that might maybe at that point you might hurt your pride a little bit to say, oh, like I have to take this work within music, it's not really my thing. But you know, suck it up a bit and go with it, and you'll earn a bit of money, and you might, you know, your musical life might become a bit more rich because of that. And that's the
more fans will show up at your shows.
That's true. Well, I've definitely had students of mine come to my shows, that's for sure.
That's awesome.
And I made a video, like there's a video for one of the songs on my newer album called Boring World, and all of the actors in the video are my students.
That's awesome.
So free labor. Just all they wanted was pizza, that's it.
Nice. Can I come to the next one?
What's the hardest part of your day-to-day?
The hardest part of my day-to-day, it definitely can be like morale. I'd say sometimes it's, I'd say there's always one point in each day where I feel like, like this is too hard, this is not working. And I have to kind of work through that and, you know, give myself a bit of a pep talk, however which way I deal with it. But I think that is the hardest part, you know, because if I'm not feeling it, if I'm feeling discouraged, it's a lot harder for me to kind of do the stuff I need to do to keep going.
Yeah.
So that's definitely the hardest part.
Even like a professional musician that is making money, and you've been doing it on your own for quite a while, even you have sort of imposter syndrome to an extent.
Yeah, but here's the thing, like I might not be as successful as I appear to be, or as you think I am, you know, with money. Like it's still a struggle. just still like I'm still not where I want to be, even to just be comfortable. So I don't know.
You still worry about money.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, but then when I just do what I love and I'm able to do a gig or even to write a song or just even play for half hour in my apartment, I feel so much better, and it makes the struggle worth it. I mean, if you don't love what you're doing, then, and this goes for anything, I guess, but if you don't really love what you're doing, then the struggle is not going to be worth it. You have to really love what you do. And I think, I mean, it's being a musician, being an artist it's very hard. It's a struggle, but I think, and it's very easy. And I've gotten caught in this many times throughout my career, where you just become obsessed with like the career or the money or how to make it work, and then you lose touch with why you started doing it in the first place, and you just start focusing on that other stuff, which is important stuff to focus on. But if that's all you're focusing on, and you're not really coming back regularly to the basic stuff, the basic reason why you started it, which is like creating, making music, whatever it is, then the other stuff is going to be way harder, and it's going to be unmanageable, because you're not grounded. You have to be grounded in why you're doing it in the first place, and I think it's a constant process of reminding myself and recalibrating and saying, oh yeah, this is why I do it. I'm going to go, even though I need to take care of this money stuff or this career, this business stuff today, it's really important that I spend 2-3 hours making music, because that's going to ground me. It's going to remind me why I'm doing this, and it's going to make the other stuff easier to do.
Awesome advice. If it's all right with you, we'll move into the rapid fire questions.
Sure.
Yeah, so our first question is, what is in your wallet?
A bunch of coins, a bunch of change. And let's see, I don't have it right in front of me, but I probably got my driver's license, my health card. I have my membership to 2 different movie theaters, like the Hot Dog Cinema and the Review Cinema. I love going to see movies. My YMCA membership card, my library, a bunch of different cards, memberships to different places.
Yeah. I imagine that staying in shape is actually probably pretty important for an artist.
For me, for my mental health, for sure.
Yeah. What's your favorite book, or a book that you would love for everyone to read?
There's a book called Songwriters on Songwriting. It's probably by Paul Zolo.
Okay.
And it's like a big, thick book, and it's got these full-length interviews with different songwriters, all done by the same guy, the same interviewer, and it's just amazing. I really feel like it's my Bible for songwriting.
So I wanted to ask, what's your favorite song of yours to play?
It's a song called This Soul. It's This Soul, and it's from my album Good Watermelon, and it's kind of like I play it to ground myself. It really grounds me.
If you had a favorite musician, who would that be?
Paul Simon.
Oh yeah?
Graceland.
Yeah, that's a great record.
I wanted to ask, what is the biggest mistake a musician can make?
Not to make music.
Fantastic answer. And then, if you could put up your own billboard on the side of the Gardner Expressway, and to say one thing to people, be it your fans or just the drivers in their cars, what would you want it to say to people?
Oh man. I would say I'll take this from one of my songs, which I took from a soy milk container. Shake well, enjoy daily.
Nice.
Perfect. Yeah, if people are looking to reach out or to find you online, or anything you want to plug.
Well, got no shows coming up, obviously.
Right.
No one does.
Yeah. COVID-19.
But but everything is up on my website, Mike Evin.com. I guess that would be the place too. All my music's on Bandcamp.
Right.
For sure. Yeah, I guess, but there's links to my Bandcamp page on my website. There's links to all the music on my website. Cool. So, MikeEvin.com.
Excellent.
Sweet.
Well, thanks very much, Mike.
It was a pleasure. It was fun questions.
Hi, my name is Amanda from Project Decimal, a financial literacy initiative from Ratehub.ca. Here's your financial tip for the week. How do I spend less? One of the questions on everyone's mind when we start talking about personal finance is, how do I spend less and save more? People often think that a good budget will solve their spending problems. If I allocate my money properly and stay within the limits, then I'll be fine. But it's that staying within the limits part that people really struggle with. You can construct the most beautiful budget, but consistently overspend and undersave. Because having a great budget on paper doesn't actually translate to changes in your behavior. If you think you're spending unnecessarily or excessively, the best way to curb your spending habits is to face your behavior. So, every month, you should set a date in your calendar to reflect on how you spent your money. First, you need to find a way to track your spending. That can be via an app like Mint or from downloading your transactions from your bank. Next, you're going to go through each transaction and decide if the purchase was a good purchase or a bad purchase. So, good purchase meaning you don't have regrets and you think it was a responsible decision. Bad purchase meaning that you shouldn't have spent your money on that item because you didn't really need it. It wasn't responsible spending. You can add up the total cost of the bad pile just to show yourself how much money you could have had if you didn't spend your money irresponsibly. Okay, now the final step. You're going to take that good pile and go through each purchase again, except this time you'll look at each purchase and ask yourself, could I have satisfied this need, want, or value in a cheaper way? I always use the example of going out to dinner with my friend. I'm happy that I went out with them, my friends are important to me, but could I have satisfied that value of friendship in a cheaper way? Could I have gone to lunch with them or gone to one of their houses instead? Both of these options would have been cheaper. So to recap, the best way to keep your spending under control is to be critical of your spending. First, you want to track your expenses, then you want to judge them as either good or bad purchases, and finally, you want to evaluate whether you could have made those good purchases in a cheaper way. It's a bit of a time commitment, but you only need to do it every few weeks or once a month. So create a ritual around it, treat yourself to something while you review your finances, because this is definitely the kind of behavior you want to reward. To learn more, visit Ratehub.ca/decimal.
Thank you for listening. Thank you to Beat Chemist for providing us with our music. Find him on SoundCloud. I want to sincerely thank you for taking the time out of your own day and investing it in yourself to get smarter about money. Head over to Ratehub.ca to learn more about making smarter financial decisions. If you want to thank us, please leave a review on Apple Podcast and follow us on Spotify. Thank you for listening. Let's help Canadians choose better with their finances. This podcast is brought to you by EQ Bank and the EQ Bank Savings Plus account. Want the flexibility of an everyday checking account with a 2% interest rate? You got it. You'll also get free Interac e-transfers, free bill payments, no minimum balance, and no monthly fees. For easy banking that earns without any everyday banking fees, switch to EQ Bank today.
The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. Views and opinions expressed by Ratehub employees are those of the employees and do not necessarily reflect the views of Ratehub Inc. or any of its sponsors or officials. This is for general use. We're not certified or licensed advisors.
Yeah, we just don't want to get sued.